Elijah GRINEVICH, welcome. So, you are an attorney for business and employment field. You are a president of GRINEVICH Law Group, and the industry size you're in is $194 billion as of 2025. Tell me a little bit about risk. How familiar are you with that term?
It depends on in what context, right? I had several of these risks with my law career, law school, whether or not to proceed or not. That was a tremendous risk, financial risk. The other risk that I took was starting my own practice. But risk, yes, until you try, you will never understand where you could be.
At what moment did your passion start for law specifically?
My story as an attorney started from me poking around into various legal methods, getting out of traffic tickets.
Personal traffic tickets?
Yeah, getting out of red lights. I would get a couple of red lights intentionally to see how the process worked. I lost all of those cases. And at the time, I was working as a technician, working towards being an engineer, robotics engineer. Before I even got my bachelor's, I was getting more than a bachelor would get. So I was thinking, what am I doing here? And at that stage, I was already a manager. I knew where this is headed. I knew the ceiling, and I had to move to Silicon Valley. But then I'm like, I want something that could intellectually challenge me. I didn't find that as fulfilling as I would, so law was kind of a gamble. And I admit the initial impression, I'm going to make so much money. I mean, my money troubles will be over and all that, and as we all know. But that was kind of a short story. It wasn't really an organic, hey, I always wanted to be a lawyer. I'm like, look, let me try that. And it worked.
Starting a business.
Yes.
You finished the school. Why did you decide to start your own business?
Well, see, every industry is different. For law, you have three options. You work for another law firm. You work for the state or the government, so you can state, county, department, a specific department, or you work for yourself. Because the way the law school and the bar exam works, as soon as you take the bar exam, you don't know up until 3 months later if you passed or not. So I worked for a lawyer for a whopping 6 weeks, and I left the company. I literally just got up, got my stuff, and left.
Was it that bad?
It was really horrible. And I don't leave. My own company is my fourth job in my life. I don't leave. I'm very loyal to the companies I work at. And that was a big statement of leaving. I left a good review on Glassdoor telling people to stay away. But that was my experience. And then thereafter, I just freelanced until I got my results. And I realized, hey, I can actually do this. And a lot of things lined up as far as to kind of confirm the decision that this is in fact the right path. And obviously, I doubt to this day, because sometimes some days are really, really difficult. I'm like, I wish I didn't really have that. But again, I have to separate the two, the actual practice of law and running your own business. Two different things.
Yes.
You could be a very, very good lawyer. You could be horrible in business management. You could be a good manager and a horrible a legal professional. So that's the balancing where you have to simultaneously learn the two. And before that, I never had my own business. It was just my first business. So I had to figure out how this works and what does, what doesn't. And then employees came, and then employment and all of this. So add another dynamic.
How many years are you in a business for?
Oh, this is my seventh year.
And in 7 years, what's your biggest breakthrough, would you say was?
Biggest breakthrough, and I think that any business could make, is a very, very clear picture. What is it that you're providing? Very clear, as in one sentence. Describe me in one sentence what is exactly that you do.
That's
and
simple.
if you take a split second to think, you don't have it.
Then question, how long did it take you to understand yourself and your business, how you want to operate it?
I think 5th to 6th year. So it took me a good 5 years to try a lot of cases, to know exactly how it works so I can advise my clients how it looks like, to know enough that I do not want to do these cases at all. For example, I just finished a case. I was suing a dead guy. It's a thing.
How does that work?
Yeah, you sue the estate. And then the guy who represented the estate, for example, if you die, you have an estate. So someone represents your estate, right? The guy died too. So you sue the lady who died, the dead person, and then you sue the guy who was representing the estate, who's also dead. We needed to adjust a document. And then if they were alive, call them, ring, hey, come over, sign. They were dead. And then the insurance company wasn't accepting the document. The only recourse was actually file a lawsuit. Serve the dead guys. It was usually through publication, through newspaper. Get it through the courts, get it through the actual hearings, get it signed, and then like a year and a half, 2 years later, you get a case. Now I know exactly
Wow.
what it's like to sue a dead guy. I would do it again because it's very, very easy.
Next thought. One thing is certain. You will make mistakes when you push the boundaries in the business. Did you have to push a lot of boundaries in your specific business? How far did you go?
Sometimes a bit too far. And but again, until you do it, you don't know.
Yeah. And that's what I'm thinking. A lot of times you just do the right thing that you think is right, but then eventually you look back and
Yeah.
you're like, wow, that was messed up.
Yeah, or you don't even know.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes drivers who drive and they cut someone off and they just off they go and then
Yeah.
like, they had no clue what they just did. I think a lot of that is that way. So I think being fortunate enough to understand that you made a mistake and make a lesson is actually a big privilege. A lot of people don't.
Good, because now I want to dive deeper into construction specifically. So, when starting a business, how important is it to get everything legalized from the start? Let's just say in construction, because it's relevant to me, I don't know what I want to do yet. What industry, what niche? I just know that I want to be in construction. I bought van, I bought tools. Maybe I have a license. Depends.
Yeah.
What would you say, like, how far can we push from not the legal perspective, but your personal opinion? How far would you say it's okay to try things or push the boundaries until you realize what specifically you want to do?
It depends how desperate you are, right? If you're desperate for work and then you have no other choice, I guess you have different tolerance limits at that stage, right? You can just do it. Obviously, the first thing is you have to be licensed or procure a license.
What is that?
Procure a license. So if you're unable to pass the exam, so you go into a partnership and
Okay.
which is
We do that.
It depends how. So well, CSLB looks at this in a various ways. So you have to do it the right way. But let's say you have to be licensed. You have to have a company and a name with a license to operate.
But here's what guys do. They find someone with license and they're like, hey, let me use your name, your license as you're my boss, but I'll run everything and then I'll pay you a percentage of the job.
Yeah. Well, that's illegal.
It is, but that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm curious about because that's what people do.
Yeah. I mean, that's illegal. I mean,
Okay.
you could do the same thing, but do it right. You can do the same thing. Call the guy and say, hey, can you enter into agreement with me? I will pay you a consulting fee. I will use your license and we'll be all compliant. And we've done that before with clients. You will have access to my system. You will oversee what I do, right? That's part of the services.
Okay.
And then I'll have a contract because if you're in construction in California, you're obligated to use a very specific, what we call a home improvement contract. It's a very specific form, the notices. You do it once with a lawyer, or you buy a form. The forms are not really as good, but let's say you have a contract, you have a license, and that's essentially what you actually need to start to do it right. There's really not much to do this right. When you get like an actual employees, obviously then it's employment forms and compliance. But if you're there, you should have some money allocated to legal expenses. But before then, you do it once. And thereafter, all you do is just maybe have a lawyer you can speak with in case there's a dispute.
At least the world where I live in, what guys typically do, and I'll give you the train of actions. You start as a helper, and then you're like, okay, well, let me buy my own van and tools, and I'll work for you 1099, sole proprietor. Okay, cool. No license, nothing. But you start there for very cheap cost. And then you're like, okay, well, let me go look for a partnership or let me work under someone's license. That way I can now get work at a higher rate. And then it's still more profitable for me to pay someone smaller percentage and still have the direct work. Then what happens is you start getting employees. Employees are cash most of the time. And you don't even know what time tracking is. It's like, I'll pay you per day $200. Are you happy? Yes. Okay, just don't cut your fingers off. What happens next is, okay, you might consider getting your own partnership or getting actually your own license. The problem with that is getting your own license. It takes a very long process, or you have to be legal in United States, which a lot of in construction is not, unfortunately. So let's just say you have issues over there. Eventually you get to the point where you understand you need to track people hourly legally. And typically this whole process, it takes about 5 to 10 years. And so I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to understand is people, I feel like they live in a dark cloud where no one really is there to teach them. Like the school really doesn't teach you where you start and how you run your business and how you have to make sure that the law is in order.
I think the problem is not really that the guys don't know, they know.
It's how far they push the boundary.
No, it's the money.
Okay.
Because being a legitimate business costs money.
Yes.
So no one is willing to work hard and get less again, going back to your scenario, it is not about people who do not know. It's they're looking at other guys, the toys they have, so they're not willing to part with their money to make their business right because that was the safer route downstream.
First of all, I do think that they don't know completely how it works. They first started and then someone tells them like, hey, you should be doing it differently because I've been burned. But the reply typically is like, well, until I have $1 million worth of gross profit, IRS is never going to look at me. Second objection is, well, I still don't know if I want to keep working in this industry. I'm just trying. So it's like, what's the point for me to have all this hassle and then I'm just not going to work here for a while? But then I understand there's different perspective. It's like, I don't want to drive a car without car insurance. It's like there's too much liability at stake. So it's like same thing in construction industry. There's some industries that I'm like, there's no way I would even start working there without an insurance because it's like that case can cost, $300,000, $700,000.
Well, again, probably it's ignorance. They don't really know. And then ask a guy who knows a guy or tell a guy, a friend who knows a friend, right? Just as a precaution, IRS is not the only problem. You have EDD, you have the homeowners, and a lot of times it's the actual damage. I mean, the way you do the work, the way you handle a warranty claim, for example, the way you deal with the actual construction, the way you handle hidden defects, unexpected defects and all that, that's where, usually the killer sits. Ultimately, going back, it's the level of the risk they're willing to take. But I always encourage people, it's not as expensive as they think to be compliant, not at all, even if you're trying. Generally, successful leadership involves compliance with laws of nature. Essentially, be good to the environment, for example, right? Be good to people in general. Be kind. Be honest, right? Try to stand by your word. Do not misrepresent. Do not overcharge. Do not hide anything in the change orders that you otherwise be upfront. You have to be in organic relationship in general with the universe, although it sounds a bit Eastern, right? But still, it makes a lot of sense. You have to be in agreement with around, and I think it's going to carry you longer. So, and again, it doesn't take much effort because when you're starting, your exposure is small, your projects are small, your risk is smaller. So I always encourage to, do the right thing.
Let's just say there's a company that understands, okay, I'm running $300,000 a year of gross revenue and I want to start organizing my business.
Yeah.
What are some simple errors that they can immediately fix? Where should they start if they want to?
What we do is we sit down, we call it the legal overview. I sit down and ask questions. It's a lot of questions. Do you have this? Do you have that? And based on the initial inquiry and kind of a brief lookup of the actual business online, I can usually pretty much tell what am I dealing with. But essentially, we sit down and we isolate specific areas of your business of what is deficient and why it's deficient. And it's so much not about me finding out, but more so of me telling the owner what's the issue. For example, a guy comes in and says, well, my partner or I, we're running this business. I'm like, partner, do you have an agreement, like a shareholder agreement? Well, we don't know. It's just he's my cousin. I love my cousin. Come on, cousins. And then that's how it all starts, right? Little by little, we review corporate structure to see if business are right. So we fix the corporate stuff. So that's compliance. So in case you're sued, the corporate law shields you naturally from liability because you're in a normal scope within your duties as a business owner, unless you're intentionally causing harm. The law will protect you. I draw this whole thing, by the way. I draw it. It's visually, you can see, okay, this is you, this is your bubble, and then this is the consumer, right? This is who you work, this is your revenue. Do you have something in between that regulates because that brings you revenue, that funds everything else? Let's fix the first thing that brings you money and then make sure it's compliant. We fix that. Okay, you have a partner. Let's fix this bubble. What's the document that represents it? So it's visually, he starts understanding, oh, wow, for every single interaction, I need like a document. I need something. If it's a lot, we build them like a plan. Not because they can't afford. A lot of people can't afford. They can just cut a check and then pay for everything. I'm like, don't do that just yet because I can deliver that in a couple of weeks and you'll be overwhelmed. You have no idea what to do with it. So let's just take it one step at a time. 1 month, we're implementing a new contract. We're teaching you how to use it. We're actually explaining what a work order is, what's an invoice, what's an estimate, and what goes when, and what's a change order and how to actually keep this.
I really thought you were just gonna say download AI and just ask him questions, and then eventually come to us.
Well, when you ask a lawyer to review an AI drafted document,
Yeah.
it's more expensive for you.
Okay, then
We
just
have
redraft
a template that we built. We just tweak a couple of things for your contract, for your industry, and it's pre-approved versus, okay, I'll bill you 4 to 5 hours at $400 per hour to review something that is crappy I can already tell. Because AI seems to simplify. It doesn't complicate.
Yeah.
So humans are simple.
Well, I really like what you said because you actually gave me all the answers. So, would you say that if someone wants to start cleaning up their business, just find a lawyer that can guide them what they need to do? What kind of lawyer should they be looking for?
So a business lawyer who has a lot of construction clients.
Okay.
Yeah, and that should be enough. I think 50 to 60% of my clients, business clients, are construction companies. I handle others, like transportation companies. We handle cleaning businesses. We have personal services. We handle all of that. And then they're not as regulated. They're very, very easy. They're easier than construction. Construction is regulated. And then we have this loop. So we do a work, right? And it goes through like a lawsuit. We know exactly how to amend our own work to know how it go through. So essentially going through a lawyer, you're getting a collective experience of all the other mistakes that went through a lawyer, and you're getting that benefit. As opposed to just using your CPA's crappy AI drafted thing that you think is qualified, is not really vetted by the enormous volume of experience that we get. Even when I started, the templates I use, the resources I used are built by companies, legal companies that have been in existence for like 150 years. By the way, no one drafts contracts from scratch. No one does that. If someone tells you there's drafting from scratch, you're probably paying them really well and it's hourly rate, because no one in their right mind would do that. It's actually, you take what's there and then you work with these provisions to tailor them towards that. And then a lawyer, you pay for his risk, because we carry a personal liability towards all the work that we do. You can file a claim against me, Elijah. Your work caused me damages in amount of, you now owe me. That's what I would do. I would highly focus on a professional who deal with this. I do want to caution you against pseudo lawyers, people who think they know, or were lawyers back in Russia, Ukraine, because it's not the same thing. They have no conceptual idea. Like even the formatting they use, like you look at the contract, you tell her right away that it wasn't drafted by a lawyer. If you look at the contract drafted by a lawyer, it's very obvious a lawyer drafted, and then your perception of who the opposing party is completely changes. Like I see like a laughable one-page contract. I'm like, I know exactly what I'm dealing with. I can bully him. I can push him. I can intimidate him. I can tell him how it's going to happen. I know they're going to fold.
Yeah.
But if I'm looking at a contract that is 8 pages long, you have this addendum, it's properly formatted, you have this weird footer that has this unique idea. I'm like, this can't be drafted by this, tile guy, because tile guys don't draft contracts. You approach this individual carefully because, someone drafted this for him. He has access to a lawyer, and you can't bully people who have access to a lawyer.
Let's just say I have a business that generates $500,000 and I come to you and you want to guide me through the whole process of how much?
Typically, a client should anticipate a basic fix of their documents around $4,000 to $5,000.
That's not too much.
Yeah,
I expected way more.
This is like 3 to 4 matters. If you want employment will gear you up to $7,500 to $8,000 total. So, over like a year and a half, you spend like $10,000 to fix your operations. Thereafter, essentially, you have an annual call with me and say, hey, California law just passed a couple of laws based on your handbook. We need to update this and this. Let me charge you hourly rate just to revise this. You don't repay for the entire thing. Corporate stuff you don't touch unless you divorced or fought with your own partner. So it doesn't really matter. So we don't touch corporate. Your contract typically stays the same, or advise them, hey, listen, construction laws change. We need to add that change. It's like, all my clients, ring, ring, law changed. Let's do this. How much? That's how much. Good. Do it. Done.
Looking 10 years ahead, where do you hope to be in 10 years?
Everyone should be asking that question. But let me tell you a story. We have a national, we call a listserv. Lawyers, we can post a question that we don't know an answer to, or a scenario. And then people from like Nevada or Washington respond, hey, according to our laws, this is what you do. But I had a case, so we kind of exchange ideas. And someone posted an ad. It's just venting, says, well, I think lawyers work too much. And I think it's true. Lawyers work too much and too hard. And the guy explained his life. And it says, well, I'm nearing my retirement age. By this time, I paid off my building, right? I don't have any employees. I do a couple of probates per month. They're more than enough of money that I made. I come in at 9, leave at 12. I have my hobbies. 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., like 3 hours a day. I'm fine. In contrast to my uncle, I remember my uncle. Well, he went to law school. He spent all his time in the library, ate like a cold sandwich on the way home. Well, at 41, he was writing a memo, told his secretary to type it up. She came back in a couple of minutes. He leaned over his desk, was dead. The guy said, I don't want to be like that. I want to control my own flow. And then the whole discussion erupted. Lawyers responding, yay, yay. The other guy says, well, my friend, he does personal injury. And that's actually the area of law. If you want to be rich, that's the law to be in. He probably is a billionaire, lost his wife, lost his kids, divorced, miserable. He hates his job. He's actually embarrassed of what he does, but he has all the money in the world. Worldview dictates where you want to be. My worldview is inherently faith-based, and I think I want to. Well, I know I will. I need to serve my community primarily as a theologian. I can release people's bonds and like a heavy burdens and theological and practical issues. I think I can do that. In the meantime, I will fund that direction, that passion with my law firm. So in 10 years, I'll probably have 2 associates. And then I have 3 areas of law. I do corporate and business, I do employment, and then the probate. I need 1 lawyer that covers all of it, and I'll be a managing attorney that most likely will travel, have a podcast and do speaking engagement, both theological and business-wise. So I have plans up to 5 years, not 10. And these are viable. A lot of things are gearing up, lining up to where I need them to be. A lot of active thinking where you don't watch your social media, you don't watch TV, you don't read, you just sit and think. You just think of how this play out. People distract their minds so much, they lost the ability to think. It's awkward to sit there and do nothing. I'm like, why are you so weird? I'm like, I'm just thinking. You have to let your mind, it's a powerful computational force to actually encompass all of the factors in your life to see where are you headed. And again, answering your question again, where are you in 5, 10 years depends on your worldview. If you're faith-based, I think everything's going to be strong if you're faith-based, because if you're pursuing the God of the universe who's a genius in all the ways, right? He can guide you in all of the aspects, because quantity of money will never bring happiness. It's just a right perspective on money will give you happiness. I think that's ultimately how I understand, your question.
Do you think that you will have more money than you can spend, more children than you can hug, and like a dream house that you can't even clean? Do you feel like that's like the future that falls if you just do things in the right order with the right motives and priorities? Or do you feel like it's on the controversy? It's like you will have more hardships than benefits if you choose to a life of service, in a sense.
There's so much to unpack in your question. From an ethical perspective, right? I don't think I'll be living in a house that I can't clean, because we're called to help people, and if you have more resources than you can spend, you're living too much. So with respect to kids, I think 4 is enough, but I get the point. I think I will be hugging my grandkids, and I'll be very happy with who I am. I think I'm headed towards the fact that God will give me more than I asked for, not because I asked for, and actually specifically ask him not to give me too much. What I asked for is wisdom to manage. So I think that will come. I think I will have more resources than I can handle, and that's where you could be proven whether or not you did it for the purpose, whether or not you did it for the money. And hopefully I will be proven, because I'm building a lot of things. I'm spending a lot of funds into the existing infrastructure to make sure that all this is viable.
Cool. And the last question I have, what advice would you give your younger self? Let's just say you're 15, trying to figure out your life.
There's something, I actually never thought about that. If I knew what I would be going through, I would tell myself, brace yourself for a life for the next 20 to 25 years of extreme difficulty. And then I would tell myself, start reading as much books as you can possibly start, because that's the only thing that keeps you fed.
So it's books, not podcasts, or
No. Yeah, podcast. So if you think about what a podcast is, if you think what a movie is, if you think what's a summary, right? In fact, not all books. For example, let's take a law book. You have a law book, and then you have a commentary to a law book. A law book is a compilation of cases, and that law book is a summary of the actual case. One case could be 100 pages,
Yeah.
but you want the law book. So when you watch a podcast, you're watching someone's opinion or listening to a podcast. It's essentially a summary. To be a dominant in an area of where you are, I mean, at least 10 books. You have to read and an expert in those areas, at least 10. Podcast is a second to third source to the actual information you're trying to learn. Go back to books. Dead people speak. They speak through the books. And then you have read George Washington's biography, right?
His movie's coming out soon.
Right. Yeah. But again, a movie, you have to appeal it to the modern mind. So they cut a lot of scenes. They create unnecessary drama.
Yes.
Maybe his life was boring, right? And then in the boringness and the mundane tasks that he does every day, the tasks he executes, and then over a lifetime, he creates, a lifetime worth of work. So my recommendation, podcast is great. It's a great summary. It's a great starting point, right? Great starting point. It gives you kind of direction, but then thereafter move on.
Follow-up question. What do you think an 80-year-old what advice do you think he would give you specifically right now, the things you're going through?
I think it's work less and focus on very specific issues. I gotta let go some of the things that I'm doing just to kind of narrow my focus down. And I'm still working on that. In life generally, and business, and in my faith, and my theology. Probably I shouldn't do biblical studies, right? You should focus on specific narrow ethical issues, because biblical, like Greek, yeah, it's fine to know Greek, but do I really need to know Greek? So those little things.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for your story.
Thank you for having me.